Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Unmasking COVID, a podcast that focuses on sharing personal stories over the course of this pandemic. This week, we have two university students joining us to talk about the shift to working from home and what their experience has been like so far. Welcome, Chelsea and Andrew. We are excited to have you on our podcast today. Would you like to quickly introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is Chelsea. I'm going into my third year of Med Sci at Western. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Andrew. I'm going to my second year of computer science and business double degree at the University of Waterloo.
Thank you so much for joining us today. To start off, could you tell us a bit more about the nature of your work? What have you been working on?
So for me, this summer I was able to get like a research scholarship slash like grant, and I'm working with a pathology professor, and I'm just characterizing telepathy, which is a type of like protein aggregate in the thalamic region of patients with different like neurodegenerative diseases.
I'm working right now as an embedded software developer at Ford, working from home. And basically what I've been doing recently is just writing an integration script as well as updating packages for upcoming releases for the vehicle software.
Yeah, the work both of you are doing seems really interesting, and I'm sure it's definitely been keeping you busy during this time. Just something for you to be doing during the pandemic while staying safe indoors. So that's really nice. But I was just wondering, so right now there are like, especially because we can't really go outside, it is pretty hard finding jobs in general during this time. So I was just wondering, like for the both of you specifically, how difficult or how different was the job search like?
For me, like I applied for this research grant during the school year. So I applied in December before all this before all this coronavirus stuff really started. However, after I got the grant, there was this period of like 2 weeks of the school saying potentially of canceling the grant because we aren't able to do any wet labs this summer because all the labs are closed. So that was not fun. but um but job search, so I didn't really have to do a job search per se this summer, but in my first year after I graduated, which was last year, that was really difficult. Even without coronavirus, job search is really difficult. Yeah.
Well, when it came to finding a co-op, I wasn't as affected by COVID-19 because I found my position before it became a really big problem here. But I'd say it's still pretty difficult because it is my first co-op, so I didn't really have much experience and I didn't really know what to expect from interviews. But as for after COVID-19 did become a big problem here, yeah, there was a few weeks period of time where I was scared that they were gonna cancel my co-op. So yeah, not the best experience for the first job, but it's been good.
And I'm glad to hear that. Like the both of you, you did get your opportunities, thankfully, before the whole pandemic um, took place. But uh, obviously, like a lot of jobs have been getting canceled due to the pandemic, and I'm glad that the opportunities for you still existed and you could still contribute virtually. And I think even for like I like if you hadn't applied for like a grant or something prior to this, and if you're looking for like a research job, a lot of places, a lot of labs are closed. So I'm assuming that would also be really hard to find a prof or someone you could work with during this time.
Yeah, for sure. Like even like for this research grant, they originally it was called Durop, and then we in the application process you apply with a professor like a PI, and you propose a project together, and that project is mainly I think all the proposed projects are wet labs. So you have to go into the lab and you do whatever pipetting, whatever you might be doing. And after the pandemic, they basically canceled that and then switched it over to another project. And it was really dependent on how your PI felt, how comfortable they were switching to a remote project. Like I've known people that also got the research grant, but then their prof didn't want to do a remote project, so they couldn't do like a research project this summer.
Do you have to compare it to like your original project idea? Do you have to change it a lot?
Yeah,
Because
like like the nature of it is just different now. Like before, I was going to like investigate the nature, like I was going to investigate like some other protein channel. They're all proteins, honestly, but it was really investigating like the nature of another type of protein in like in a different context. And now I'm mostly doing like, and that was like a lot of the data collection. And the project I'm working on, the data collection has really been done, and I'm just working on analysis. So it's quite different.
Also, just in general, do you think funding will also be impacted by this pandemic in general for just research?
Funding, I'm not sure. I there's that perspective where you can say, oh, because of this pandemic, people is drawing attention to the importance of research or vaccination, and maybe people will feel more inclined to put money into scientific research. But as of this moment, everyone's pocket is kind of tight, so that's a different issue. But there are lots of different grants that you could get, and there's always opportunities out there.
Yeah, so I know like a lot of changes have been made due to the pandemic. So I really want to hear about what your plans were for the summer before the pandemic really struck and you had to change them. What were you planning on doing, and how now are you really adapting to this current situation?
Well, for me, I had a summer plan full of hanging out with auto friends because I don't really see them much anymore, as well as camping and going to the gym. Um, I might still be able to go camping a few times, but uh, I'm not too sure how much social activity I'll get to do with the pandemic. So I'm kind of sad
Yeah,
about that, but
I feel that
hopefully
energy.
the conditions improve.
Yeah, I feel that energy as well. I was originally originally a couple of my friends were going to stay in London for the summer for summer school, and I was gonna stay in London with another friend, like live with another friend that also got the research grant. But obviously that's canceled now. Like the in-person lab, so we're all working from home. But yeah, just a lot of socialization that we're kind of missing out. But also part of I think a lot of science students that finished second year do the MCAT. So and we were all planning to write the MCAT together, and we're just sitting at home instead of maybe at the library together.
Yeah, so right now, would you say that you're still trying to juggle between like you're working from home as well as maybe studying from home, like you said for the MCAT, for example?
Yeah, for sure. There isn't like a line because I study and I work and I sleep all in the same room, so there isn't really like a definitive line where that crosses, and that's definitely been a challenge to trying to have a good balance between the three and not, yeah, and that's difficult, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
Um,
actually, I'm really sorry.
no, go ahead.
I'm really curious about that. Like you mentioned, like you work and study and sleep all in the same room. How, like, cause I know like I'm also working from home right now, and it's kind of a similar situation for me. And I find it kind of difficult to really find like that mental state to try to like break yourself away from studying versus like wanting to just relax sometimes. and it's hard to just kind of keep focused if you're in the same space the entire day. So has that ever happened to you, and like how do you manage that?
Yeah, it definitely like happens to me. I'm just even like even when I lived in residence, so as a residence advisor, I'm like a staff on the floor, and I'm there to support the students on the floor. And that kind of residence environment is kind of like a job. That's like a job to me, right? The moment I stepped foot into, the residence hall I lived in, I had to be um I had to be I had to be on, right? I need to be representative of housing, whatever expectations right? And I found that was really, and and so I couldn't even at school, I couldn't even do a lot of work being a resident. I just spent my day at the library, and I would come back to residence at like 10 p.m. and then I would sleep at like 11. And that's something I can't do right now. Honestly, like of all places, I really miss the library. Never thought I would say that, but
I miss it
what
too.
that's um but how I try to manage it is, if I could, I usually go to a different room in during the day when I'm like studying. So I would go into like the kitchen, or I would go into the living room, and then not come back until like it's time to sleep, because I would just fall asleep. I would just looking at that bed just makes me want to fall asleep. But yeah, it is definitely hard to find that balance, especially when you're restricted to like a small area. But gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, for me, it's back at school. I actually did most of my studying in my room, but that's only because I spent a lot of time like outside my room walking between classes and just going to the gym and stuff. So now that I have to work, study, and sleep all within a small space, I find that like every once in a while I get a headache or something from just not standing up for hours at a time. And I'd say like I really like I think it's pretty hard. So yeah.
Yeah,
It's in-
personally. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I felt like when, like you mentioned, like because you're in like a very closed up space and like get headaches and stuff, I felt like just taking a walk or just even just like stepping outside for some fresh air really does help. It makes it's a good change from like being stuck up and closed in like a single room. Just like seeing the outside world and seeing how the weather has actually changed a lot. Um, it could be it could be a good thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm glad the parks are open now. When I lived at home, like in high school, I would go hiking every weekend, and I went on the trail yesterday, and I've never seen so many people hiking together. I'm like, I'm like, is there really a pandemic? But yeah,
Wait, by like hiking together, do you mean like families? Just
yeah,
like, yeah.
families hiking together, and there's just a lot of people in general. Like the parking lot was like pretty full, and like usually when I hike like in high school, like I would go on the trail and I'd probably see like maybe half a dozen people. But now you're kind of like because I think a lot of families take their kids out and they feed the animals, and it's a fun activity for the kids, and they're just like kind of blocking the trail, and then you just have to like try to keep 6 feet apart while like passing through the people. It's kind of a maze. Yeah.
Yeah, like I've been going kayaking every weekend recently because they just opened the boat launches, and I've never seen so many cars at at the boat launch I normally go to, because normally it's like one or two, maybe three, but recently it's been like 10 every time I go.
Yeah, for sure.